What's up, guys? Welcome back to the CMH Show. Hey, let's talk about overwhelm. And if you're in a state of overwhelm right now, you're running an online business. One of the hardest parts, by the way, about getting an online business for me was the complexities. And so I think AI has made it a lot easier now, getting your tool stack right. There's just a lot of intricacies. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces. And the inability, I think, to operate face to face with team members that you do have, it's tough. It's a dynamic. So when you layer in marketing, not just running an online business, but then you layer in the marketing and the marketing psychology that we help people with developing marketing strategies that don't just get engagement, but actually drive sales. I think a lot of people kind of get marketing becomes something that they do, not something they're intentional about. I don't know if that resonates with you as I say that, but I found myself in a cycle of just doing content. I think you're seeing a little bit of a shift. I think we're exiting the Gary V, and this is no shade of Gary V. He was a time and space where his message was really relevant, but that time and space was where it was just getting people to do content. That's not the problem anymore. The core problem is not getting people to do content. That was a 2016 problem. We had to twist people's arms to get them to understand why content was valuable, to actually deliver value so people actually understand what you do and amplify brand awareness. They didn't understand seeing it for what it was, which was free, right? Sweat equity, but free monetarily marketing for your business. And they just didn't understand that. And so we've exited that era and we've now entered into more of like a Hormozy era where now it's about, okay, everybody has found and knows the opportunity to get engagement and build brand online through specifically for social media. Now it's about how do we create content that differentiates us. When markets get crowded, you have to differentiate. Otherwise, you end up being just yet another in a sea of a million similar type offers and a million different types of people that are saying the same thing. That doesn't mean they're going to do something eccentric and weird. So we hear people do that, like virality coaches, right? That just will tell you to do something funky and weird. Have like a booger hanging out of your nose or something in your teeth. I'm not joking. These are real suggestions from a lot of these people, for real. But what we want to do is we want to differentiate on something that allows you to showcase your unique ability, right? And so Kim and I are very mechanism driven. We're very numbers driven, strategy driven. We're not rah-rah. Like, you're not going to come to us. You might get some tough love and we might hype you up in a way that's like through truth, but we're not the type they're going to be like, you can do it, feel good about yourself. Like, that's not who we are. Maybe we just lack that charisma. I don't know. But people that have heard the rah-rah stuff, but it didn't lead to a result, they come to us because they're like, man, I remember hearing that one time Kim and Chris talked about how I need to focus on the right numbers and not just engagement. I need to focus on driving people to sales. And so we're like the third or fourth thing that people have tried, not the first thing that people try. And so understanding that positioning for you is going to be really, really critical. Understanding where you stand out. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it may be partially because you don't know where you fit. And so I would start with unique ability and the kind of the core foundation of who you are. If you're not the rah-rah person or you're not the type of person that's really, you're not funny, don't try to be that, right? Like I can be an intense person and sometimes that comes off the wrong way. It rubs people the wrong way. But when it's channeled towards something that I'm convicted about and then I layer mastery, hopefully, on top of that, that intensity comes across as, and conviction comes across as my deep concern or my deep care for seeing people win. I get really tired of seeing people not win that have a real good offer. Like, they have something that people want. They have value to provide. It's not nonsense, right? It's not smoke and mirrors. It's not fluff. So I'm going to give you this resource today. You can create a rendition of it for yourself if you'd like. But this is our problem solution content map. And hopefully, if you're feeling overwhelmed, so as you know, right, I'll just reference this. If you're not familiar with us at all, this is our mechanism. It's called content to customers method. And it's exactly what it sounds like, right? So there's 3 phases in our content to customers method. Phase 1 is the capture phase, right? And this is what content is really good at doing. It's really good at capturing people, whether that's attention or whether that's deepening a relationship with Connect or pushing them down to conversion content, which eventually is going to hopefully lead to sales, right? So that's normally what we're talking about today is going to be more focused on phase 1, which is content oriented. Phase 2 is monetized. So it's going to be more sales assets, VSLs, sales pages, webinars, right? And then phase 3 is the advertising process, right? It's media buying. It's making sure once you found winning opportunities or qualified efforts, you're going to flip that into putting ad spend behind it, right? So that's the core essence. Obviously, that's a very, very truncated and simplified explanation of what it is, but I want at least you have a conceptual idea of this is what we preach and teach if you're not already familiar with Kim and myself. So let's talk about the problem solution content map, right? This is something that Kim came up with that I think, Kim's my wife and business partner, if you don't know, that I think is, I mean, literally she presented this just as a blank template at our last in-person mastermind and people like lost their minds. So hopefully you're having that reaction as well, because I do think it's a really solid resource. So keeping things simple, what are we trying to do with our content, right? We want to meet people, whether it's attract, connect, convert. Let's just remove that from our mind right now, right? What is the essence of what we want to accomplish? We want to meet people with a problem they're experiencing, right? We're not going to talk even about problem and solution aware, market sophistication. We're not even going to go into those layers, right? We're just going to say, what are the problems that my person's having, right? And where are they in their journey for that problem? So for us, what did I say? People have tried a lot of things that haven't worked. They're feeling overwhelmed. That's the reason I'm creating this video, because people are feeling overwhelmed. They've heard a million things. They've spent tens of thousands of dollars on courses and coaches and trainings, and they still feel stuck, or they feel like they're chasing the wrong things, or they're no closer to their goals, right? And so we want to focus on fundamentals in psychology, right? That's what it comes down to. Marketing is just layering into psychology and putting assets in place that help walk people towards solutions. It's selling at scale through psychology. People, we're emotional creatures. We buy with emotion, we validate with logic. It's what we do. We give people an incentive to take action now with deadlines and scarcity. Like, these things don't change, guys. Platforms can change. These things don't change. Like, fundamentally, as people, we're pretty much the same as we've always been. I say that, and you probably scoff at that because we spoke a certain way. But at its core, right, a lot of these same marketing things that we're talking about here, I've worked for 50 years, right? Just in, again, different modalities, mediums, and presentations. So we're going to talk about problem, right? What are the problems that your people are having? We're going to fill that out here. So I mentioned ours specifically, right? They're overwhelmed with the millions of options. They've tried other things that haven't worked. They've done this, they've done that, right? Solution number one, right? So what you'll do is you're going to map out the solutions based off of what they have experienced, right? So for example, I'm overwhelmed and I don't know what to focus on. Okay, great. I'm going to create a video that explains to you how to overcome your overwhelm by just focusing on these three things. Just use my content map, right? Awesome. Now, I'm not giving you the full kit and caboodle, right? I'm not walking through and spending 4.5 hours, which candidly, this would take 6 months to walk you through this whole thing. I'm giving you a part of something that's splintered off from the main core thing that we teach inside of our coaching programs, right? I'm splintering that off because I want to reverse engineer and bridge the gap between where they are and where my product or service is. This is the gap. And what I'm doing here, this is a bridge, right? Think metaphorical bridge here. And if I can say, these are the things that showcase why I am the qualified guide to help them go from this is one side of the Grand Canyon on problem, and then this is where they want to be, and my product or service helps them get there. These are the solutions in between that help them see that that's possible. Give them a new paradigm. If you don't give people an aha moment from the problem that exists right now in their minds, they're not even open to consider a new product or service in most cases, right? Because at some point in time, now, if they've only heard it one time, meaning they're truly, truly problem aware, maybe they say, that looks great, I'll give it a shot, right? But then when you're in a sea of millions of opportunities, it gets competitive and crowded. So even in that situation, problem aware, you still need to differentiate from all the other people that are demonstrating that particular problem or putting out content around that. Now, again, there's an argument to be made about their becoming solution aware because now they've heard it so many times. I don't want to get in the trenches here. But what you really want to figure out is 4 simple things. What are the problems that my people are experiencing? And then each one of them, you're going to walk through with 1 to 4 solutions that help them overcome that walk them to your product or your service, right? So if we want, and this is a situation where we have a PDF fillable version of this that I'm not using right now, but I would say something like overwhelmed with content. You'll excuse my typos. I'm typing on a microphone here. With content consistency, let's just say, right? Overwhelmed with content consistency, right? That's their problem they're experiencing. And so what we're going to do is say, right? We're going to say introduce content map so they actually know what they're supposed to post, right? Then we're going to say, and your solution would be wrapped up in like a piece of content, right? So like you would do a video that walks them through the content map like I'm doing right now, right? You could do my top 5 favorite tools for content creation, right? My top 5 fave tools or ... You get the idea, right? And then you could do another one that says, another solution, how my VA team takes content off my plate, blah, 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 right? Another piece of content, right? And then if they're, again, this is where solution awareness would come in, because if they've hired a VA team and that didn't work, you would say how my unique approach or how my unique VA system, right? You would have to differentiate differently. Again, I don't go too much in the weeds on that, but you would have to say my unique approach to and my unique methodology with virtual assistants, right? That's what VA means. Okay. And then next would be my top favorite tools. Okay. How repurposing saves me 30 hours a week in content creation, right? And then now you've got all these different solutions that you use, that each one of them, what we're doing is we're, one, proving domain expertise, right? Which now if we're attracting, we're also connecting with the domain expertise that we're demonstrating and giving them mechanisms and approaches, differentiation, right? And so a lot of people would just give free tips on Instagram, but they wouldn't deepen the relationship, right? And so you can still get engagement, but we just want to make sure that we layer it into walking them towards something. And many people don't do that, right? And then what we would do is, from that point forward, is we would make sure that we start building all these efforts around other mediums, right? So YouTube videos, we would break that into micro content for Instagram or for TikTok or for YouTube Shorts or whatever you're doing, or do a podcast episode. Like, you can start repurposing all of this into different formatting, right? You could do a carousel post, right? Where you're basically showcasing your content creation process in a carousel post, or a YouTube video here, or a blog here, right? And you're just repurposing the same solution messaging, right? And then at the end of those, what we're going to do is you're going to talk about whatever the next step looks like, right? You could have on that piece of content like DM me for whatever, and then it sends them through a sales process that leads them to your product or service or solution. The reason this works is because, again, we want to take people from where they are to where you want them to be. But in the meantime, we want them to feel, I can do this. This is going to lead them to an empowered state where they now have an understanding maybe they didn't have before. And they understand that your unique approach and how it works is going to give them newfound hope that it's, again, possible for them, right? Or that this is a real thing, so it's qualified, right? Like somebody's actually achieving this. And you could use, example, you could say like, how my VA team or how my VA approach is helping myself and my clients save X amount of time and save money, right? Like, you could roll that into showcasing case studies and testimonials. In addition to it works for me, it also works for other people. So get creative around, like, if these are the core solutions around this, solving this problem, is content map, tools, VAs, and repurposing. Like, those are your 4 solutions to the overwhelmed with content consistency. You just continue to regurgitate those over and over in creative ways. Platforms, again, different ways you could present it, whether it's case studies or yourself, or you could show them, right? You could demonstrate, like on a whiteboard, right? Here's how I do it. Here's what it looks like. So you could talk about the theory. You could write a book around it if you want, like a small ebook around it. Like, there's so much you could do that showcases the solution, or you could write an ebook that includes all 4. And at the end, it's giving them opportunities, or throughout the book, scan my QR code to get a diagnostic where I can help you assess a free 20-minute assessment to, solve your content consistency problem, in which you're going to sell them on some program or course or training that you have, right? But you see what we did here? We didn't just go from content consistency, buy my program, right? Buy my stuff. We didn't do that. We actually bridged it with proof, right? What do we all look for when we're buying something? We read reviews. We want proof. Some people read the manuals. We look at other options. And if you don't provide this, meaning if you don't demonstrate domain expertise and show differentiation, they're going to look for the cheapest product, right? They're going to look for the cheapest product. When we know it's going to work and we know it's going to deliver on the thing, the transformation or the outcome that we're seeking, we're willing to pay the thing that it's worth, right? For what it's worth. And that's what you want to establish. And so bridging people to that gap, that's where you want them to be. So my recommendation is just build. You can use a Google sheet or an Excel doc or whatever you want to use, and build out, I would say, no less than probably 2 of your main problems that your ICA is having, your ideal client avatar is having, and just roadmap this to your product or services, and then just give it a shot. I guarantee you this, guys. We see people deploy this, and even with a small audience, we just gave a story actually of one of our clients. She has a big audience. She's over 20,000 actually. We're not against big audiences. I know people think that. We just want it to be the right audience of a big audience. Does that make sense? Like, you don't just want to be, I said this in a podcast episode, you don't want to be the class clown that just gets the content class clown just gets a bunch of attention. You want to get attention for the right reasons. So if your audience gets huge for the right reasons, amazing, you did your job, right? So, but what we really want to see is that you're actually, even with a small audience, like the person I'm going to tell you about, 16 likes on a carousel post turns into 6 applications. I want to see a ratio, that's a very high one, but I want to see a ratio of leads and sales to likes and views that's representative of the amount of time and effort you're putting into this. And following an outline where you have structured thoughts. When have you ever wanted something where you weren't structured about it, where you just threw it out into the world and you had success? I'm telling you right now, that's how people do their content. So use tools, use formats like this so that you stay focused and locked in. Entrepreneurs are very, very creative brains and creative minded. And so sometimes we get way out in creative land and we don't have guardrails that kind of keep us focused and keep our messaging dialed in. The more your messaging is dialed in and the more you repeat that dialed in messaging, the more you're going to start to see the right people seeing things, because the algorithms know what you're talking about and they're going to interface it with people that is relevant for them. So you'll start to see that increase even with a small audience, one in conversions, but then you'll be growing your audience with the right people. So hope that helps. Again, let me know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, if it's been helpful for you, and then also what topic you want to see me cover next. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you're here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.